Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron Legrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, welcome back. Now we're going to go to the next lesson in our series of 32 fatal mistakes made by every real estate investor. Number 18, don't make promises you can't keep. And don't make promises that you're even in doubt you can't keep. In fact, the less promises you make, the better chances you got of not ever having to worry about explaining yourself as to why you didn't keep those promises. There's not a human being alive that's kept every promise that they've ever made. They just don't exist. Okay, we think we're going to keep them, or we probably wouldn't make them. But it's, ask yourself, why am I making this promise if I'm not sure? And if you want to lose good relationships, that's the way you do it, by making promises you can't keep. And that includes sellers when you're buying houses. Seller says, well, I want all my money in a year. And you're going to tell the seller, well, if that's the case, I'm not your buyer, because I'm not going to obligate myself to paying you off within a year. All right. And I hear sometimes I hear real estate investors saying something like, well, because they're asked, well, when are you going to get me paid off? I don't know. I imagine I can get it done within a year or two. Never should come out of your mouth. You have no idea when you're going to get them paid off, because it depends on your buyer and when and if they're going to go get a loan to be able to pay everybody off. You don't know when that's going to be. So your answer should never be, I'm going to pay you off blank. Tell it like it is, and you'll find that people are a lot easier to do business with, and you'll sleep better. And I can tell you right now, they will appreciate it when you tell it like it is. And it's going to, if you tell it like it is, and that kills your relationship, good, do it now. Don't waste any more time on it. But when you tell it like it is, and even things that you don't like to tell it because you think it might kill a deal, well, if you get past that hurdle, think about how easy that deal will be from that point on, when you refuse to address the elephants in the room. All right. I want to show you what this terms business is all about, in case you're watching this for the first time and you haven't been exposed to me before. I picked an example of a house that I still own, because this is a really, really good example of why you don't want to sell everything you get your hands on. This nice house, nice neighborhood. It was 3 years old when I bought it. And by the way, that was in 2014. I bought it in 2014. Put that in the back of your head. Seller called me and said, listen, I owe $351 on a house that's worth $385, because I had it listed and the realtor couldn't sell it. And it's $19.25 a month. I got to move in 2 weeks, and I don't want to relist it because I'm not getting it sold, and I can't handle that payment and another payment where I'm going if I don't get this thing sold. So they called and said, can you buy it? I said, well, you're right on my way home. I will definitely stop by and let you know when I see the house. House is 3 years old. Can you imagine what it looked like? It's like brand new. They kept it up very well. And their biggest motivation was they didn't want that payment and another payment. It's just that simple. Now, they told me when they sent me this house that I will sell it for what we owe. We'll sell it for what we owe. When you hear that, it means you just got a free house. So it's possible that I'm sure the seller thought that I was going to come out there and maybe write him a check for the $351,000 and pay the house off, but that's not how it works. Okay, so I had to explain to him that's not how it works. I'll take over your debt, and I'll even pay your closing cost and make your payments until sometime in the future it gets paid off. I made no promises as to when that was. We never had a discussion about putting a balloon or a term in there. He didn't ask, and I didn't render one. And so he said, okay. Remember, he had his back against the wall, and he didn't have much of a choice except put himself in a position that would have probably wound up this house going in foreclosure. So 7 days later, I closed on the house. I bought the house for the $351,000, and I paid, and it cost almost $4,000 in closing costs. But now I own the house. All right, now what am I going to do with it? Okay, I bought it on terms. I want to sell it on terms. So I put a lease option tenant buyer in there at $395,000, because I always raise the price on the houses I sell. And that buyer brought in $50,000, non-refundable option deposit. Now, it took 2 months to find this buyer because a lot of calls, but they had a lot smaller amount of money. So I knew I could get 50 grand down on this house. Again, like new, gated community, beautiful 3,500 square foot house. And I knew it was out there. And I have to have the patience to wait on it. And I did. About 2 months later, a call came in and to Tish, my personal assistant, and she found out that they could put as much as $50,000 down. So she called me on that, and I said, tell them their loan is approved. Because I knew if they got $50,000 and they put it down, I don't care what their past is, I don't have to worry about them. And we did have them checked out, and they did. As I recall, they weren't that bad, really. So I didn't technically say, yeah, you got the house. I just said, tell them their loan is approved, but we will need a little bit more information, which we got. And then they were asked, what's the most you can pay per month? And they said $2,500. And the answer to those two questions resonated well for me. So I said, well, all right, well, give us this little bit of information here, and we'll be back to you the day after tomorrow. So I sent it to screenattendant.com, and I found out, that their credit is not too far away from being good enough. They have a little problem approving their income, but I asked them, how long do you think you're going to need? They said they're going to need about a year to get it cleaned up. And I said, well, I'll give you 2, which is what I always do. I give them 2 years, right? So that's the way we wrote it up. And 3 days later, they had the keys to the house because I called the attorney from right there and set up the appointment for 3 days yonder to give the attorney plenty of time to fill out the lease option agreement that I sent him and the CYA letter that I sent him. And so 3 days later, they got the keys to the house and I got the 50 grand. All right. So my intent was to lease option it out, which I did. And I figured they'd probably buy since they got $50,000 in it, and they were clearly told that it's non-refundable. But, well, I'll tell you later what happened here. Well, let's just answer this question. Well, why don't they just go to the bank and get a loan? Well, first of all, they wouldn't qualify at the bank. That's all of our tenant buyers don't qualify at the bank, or they wouldn't want to lease it with an option. They'd want to go get a loan on it. And second of all, they would need $79,000 down. Look, this is a $395,000 sale. 20% of that is $79,000 down. Okay, they only had 50, so they didn't even have enough for the down payment. But they could pay in time. They could get the down payment, and they knew that. So I made $50,000 in a few days. And now you're saying, but Ron, don't you have to bring that to closing? No, I do not have to bring it to closing. It's my money the day I get it. If they move, they will not get a refund. If they buy, it'll just get credited toward their purchase price on their closing statement. So nobody has to bring a check to closing. I'm not a realtor holding somebody else's money. It's my money. It's your money the day you get it. So I can spend that $50,000 any way I want to spend it. Nobody can tell me what to do with that money. And that's where your big money's coming from these non-refundable option deposits on these nice houses in nice neighborhoods. And just for the record, the higher the price, the better I like it, because the more money I'm going to make on it. I can keep every dime of it. Plus, I get $575 a month for the difference between the rent they're paying me and the underlying payment that I'm paying. That's called residual income. And when I get cashed out, I get to keep all the cash above the loan payoff. I'll show you what that is here in a minute. So how long does it take to get cashed out, Ron? Never, I hope. Never. Why you want to kill a golden goose is paying you all that money and creating all those other benefits for you. I don't want to sell the property. Now, when I put a tenant buyer in there, they have the right to buy it. But truth is, most of them don't. Sometime in the future, they call me and tell me they're moving. So I want you to watch this. And in fact, if you're taking screenshots or you're going to take a photo of this, you might want to get ready, because this one example of the house is about a good example of why you don't want to sell houses. And I got a whole bunch of them, but this one I've owned for, I don't know, 9 years or so now. So let's see what happens 9 years later after I've owned this house. Look at all the income streams. First of all, I only paid it $351 for it. And when I say I paid it, I just took over the debt on it. Today's value is $707. $707. Okay. Is that reason enough to buy this house? Now, it's true, we just went through a hyperinflation period, but it's still true whether it's hyperinflation or not. Real estate always goes up. Sometimes it comes down a little while, but then it goes right back up. 2008 is a good example of that. Okay. Our real estate went down 40% here where I live, but it wasn't very long to when it started going right back up. And now it's worth more than it was at the highest time in history. We had a good 2005, for example, prices were all up. Well, they're well above that by now. And just the fact that I owned that house just made me $356,000 when I want to sell that house in appreciation. Okay, appreciation. And remember, tenant buyer did all the work that needed to be done. I haven't spent a nickel on that house to date other than the payment. Net cash flow. Look at there, $575 a month for 108 months, which is wrong because we're using 10 years. That's 120 months, I guess. You know what? I only figured it for 108, so I'm wrong. The net cash flow alone is 62.1. It's more than that now because I figured it wrong. Tax savings. See, this is the thing people forget about as well. The day that I took title to that property, I'm entitled to start depreciating that property over a 27.5-year term on my basis. Make a long story short, that's $8,900 a year in taxes that I do not have to pay just because I own that property. That's $80,000 that I have not paid in taxes for. I'm sorry, it is 9 years. Okay, so my numbers are right. For a minute there, I actually thought I made a mistake. I'll get this. When I took over the loan balance at closing, it was actually $351. My loan balance today is $260,000. So I've had $97,000 worth of debt pay down, and I didn't do anything except collect rent, make payment, and I don't do that. I got a lady that does that for me. So frankly, I have done nothing to this house since 2014. And look what it's worth to me. Total gain on this house in 9 years, $595,000. And I still own the house. And I'll probably own it for a long time coming. I got it for free, except closing costs. No credit, no money, no repairs, no realtors, no banks, no costly entanglements. Needed nobody's permission except the seller. And bought the house 7 days after I met this couple. So just for kicks and grins, how many of these do you need per year? Per year, okay? How many of these do you need per year that you just get out there and put lease ops and tenant buyers in there, and 10 years later, you're worth millions of dollars, all on properties that you bought without guaranteeing debt and with very little money. And by the way, I put out $4,000 for closing costs. How long did it take me to get that 50 grand? 2 months. So that did 46 grand the day I bought the house. And these are all around you. I don't care where you live. There is no city in the United States where you can't do term deals just exactly like this. And I'll even include Canada on that one. A lot of students in Canada. They do business, very little difference between the way they do it and the way we do it. And deal update, they lived there for 2 years and they called me and said they were moving. Frankly, I was kind of shocked. I said, well, golly, you don't have to move. I'm going to stay in there another year. I won't charge you anymore. Nah, we're going to move. Well, okay, if you say so. So tenant moved out. And I had my mind set on going out, lease opting it again, and collect me another $50,000. But then my personal assistant, Tish, talked me out of it and talked me into letting her rent the house, which I did, and she's been in it ever since. Still owing me 50 grand. I keep telling her, I don't think I'm gonna get it though. However, she's paid the debt down. She's kept the house up. I don't have to worry about anything, and I have not spent a dime on it, so I don't care. She's the one that made me all that money, whether I got the 50 grand out of her or not. But just think about that. It was only a $400,000 house, and it's made me $600,000 in the 14 years, and it's not been an issue at all for me. What if you had, I don't know, let's say you had 10 of those suckers? You realize you'd be worth about $5 or $6 million that those 10 houses would have made you over that period of time. So the last thing in the world you want to do is cash out of a house. Now, I told you earlier that if I buy for cash, I sell for cash. That is true. If I buy for terms, I sell on terms. That is true. So it's the terms deals that's going to make you the most money and create the most wealth, but it's the wholesale deals that can get you the big checks quickly, and you're going to pay maximum taxes on them. Whereas my house here, my profits are going to be taxed at a long-term capital gain because I owned it more than a year. But, the truth is I'm never going to pay taxes on this house because I got 3 different ways that I can sell this house without ever paying taxes legally, which I'll teach you if we get a chance to work together. So we don't have to do anything illegal, unethical, or immoral to buy all the real estate we want. Trust me, this guy wanted to get out worse than I even wanted to get in. I bought over 3,000 houses and never once threatened a seller. Never once have I held a gun to their head and say, sign this or I'll pull the trigger. They got what they wanted or I wouldn't have got the house. It's just that simple. So we got to address the elephants in the room and clear the path ahead. We can't try to buy houses keeping big secrets that they're going to find out before closing, and just bring them out front and deal with them. I can teach you all the language you need to answer any question any seller can ever give you. Seller cannot ask me a question that I can't answer. Ignoring them leads to failed closings and pissed off sellers and buyers and everybody else within the deal. Number 19, you give up too soon. Oh boy, I can't, I wished I could tell you that the majority of my people don't give up too soon, but I can't tell you that because that'd be a whopper. It's human nature. It's human nature to, spend your life working on a job, working for the man, showing up for work, 5 o'clock or whatever, get off, go home, don't have to think about it anymore, got the weekends off, regardless of how many hours you worked a week. And so you never thought like an entrepreneur. When you get into business for yourself, things are going to change because now all the decisions are yours. There is no getting off at 5 o'clock. You're 5 o'clock mean anything to you. And I'm not telling you you're going to have to work long hours because you don't. In fact, if you are working long hours, you're not listening and you're not getting to the point to where you're getting yourself out of the way. But first time something comes along, something happens that you don't understand, or somebody's told you a bunch of crap that you actually believe, it gives you a reason to quit. We are not looking for reasons to quit. We're looking for reasons not to quit. And frankly, that reason is money and freedom to take your life back. Successful entrepreneurs in any business keep moving forward until they succeed. But that takes a mindset different than most, because frankly, that makes you unusual, not normal. Because most entrepreneurs quit the first chance they get because it's easier. Now, I'll ask you the same question that I ask anybody else I'm talking to. Tell me, what business are you going to get into that you don't have to learn stuff that's new to you and get you out of your comfort zone until you've learned them? I don't know of any. This one's no different. Show me a business that's worth having that you don't have to learn anything new. And again, that's a business that's worth having. Okay? There's a lot of businesses people get into that aren't worth having. You got to develop alligator skin and learn to solve problems quickly. Because the world is out to get you and nobody gives a damn whether you succeed or not. In fact, they just as soon see you fail, so you can come down there and waller in self-pity with them and make them feel better. I know this might not resonate with you well, but frankly, nobody out there wants to see you succeed, except hopefully your spouse and your mother, okay? The rest of the world don't really want you to succeed. They want you to fail so they can feel good about themselves. And frankly, I don't care what comes out of their mouth. They don't really mean it. The only person that cares whether you succeed is you and those very close to you. Much of the world is going to do everything that they can to ensure that you don't succeed because they'd rather see you fail. so they can say, I told you so. It takes grit to succeed in business. So that means one has to grow a backbone. One has to quit worrying about what other people say. And you got to assume that everyone's lying to you and will not keep their promises. Because the whole world's full of crap. Meaning, people will tell you whatever you want to hear, but that doesn't mean they're going to do what they say. And you have to assume that when you're dealing with people, they're not going to do what they say. So you're not so surprised when people actually let you down, which is exactly what's going to happen in the world of business, any business. If you persist until you succeed, it only takes 3 to 5 years to set you up for life. And I mean that sincerely. In fact, people coming in that are aggressive and are actually moving things forward, not dilly-dallying around, it don't take any 3 to 5 years to set you up for life. Because real estate is one business that you can grow very, very quickly in and make a lot of money in, as long as you stay focused on the mission, get the dream stealers out of your life, and do the simple things that you need to do to make the revenue come in. And if you can't make real estate investing work, it's unlikely you're going to make any business work. You have the same problems in business, just a different product. You got to learn to be able to solve problems quickly so you can move on to the next one, which will come shortly after you solve this one. When you start thinking of quitting, ask yourself this: is anyone else in my city doing well in real estate? And you know the answer. You know the answer. So ask yourself, what would Ron do? He wouldn't quit, because I have plenty of chances to quit. Sometime I'll tell you my story and you'll wonder why I haven't quit it. So if the answer is yes, and you know it is, ask yourself, what's wrong with me? And get to work fixing it. Why aren't I out there doing what other people are doing that are making money? Well, maybe because you don't have the training, or maybe it's because you have the training and you don't do the implementation. Because I'll be the first to tell you, without the implementation, the training is worthless. In fact, it does more harm than good, because it just makes you sad that you're not doing the stuff that you know you should be doing. It doesn't help anything. So we got to get the implementation going. That's what we're so good here at Global Publishing. Got all these systems set up for you. Got all these vendors already found for you. All you got to do is plug and play and do what I ask you to do, and you'll start getting checks pretty quickly. Got to get up, grow up, and move up. Leaders don't make excuses. They make shit happen. And you can believe that. If you're the boss of your company and you aren't making things happen, who do you think is? Nobody. So it falls back on the leader to guide everybody else they're working with. And that, that probably is going to be vendors, not employees, but maybe someday you'll have an employee or two. But you won't have that until you get off the ground and start getting some deals going on your own. And if you can't get these deals done on your own, I mean, it's very unlikely somebody else is going to do it for you, and you get all the money. You're going to have to learn this stuff, or honestly, this is not for you. If you're not willing to learn the steps you need to take to buy houses, then how far do you think you're going to get? Or you're going to talk yourself into quitting. You can either think, or you can labor for those who think. Okay, well, that will carry us to the end of this lesson, and another one will be coming to you very shortly. All right, we'll come back on the next lesson, and we'll do 10 or 11 more of them, but I think that's enough to keep you busy for right now, and I'll see you on the next lesson.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.